Okay. Ho, ho, ho. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. You can get all the show notes every day over at WDMA.org. You subscribe, but it's free. And once you subscribe, it's all one click type stuff in the members only area. We're going to start out with Geico. They're bringing back the Caveman. And they decided it was, and we'll get to the story in a minute, but they decided they had to have 2 minutes because they got some 2-minute ad buy. Always be wary of ad agencies that do your creative based on their ad buy. And it's a little too self-indulgent for me, so we're going to go to the 1 minute mark of a 2-minute spot. Mr. Caveman has woken up in the middle of the night with a nightmare about being the object of a joke that started in 2004, where Geico used to have the tagline, "So easy a caveman can do it," and this went on. The last appearance was in 2019, so it's really only been 4 years since he's been around. So they did this 2-minute spot. He just woke up in the middle of the night with a nightmare, and then he's discussing the letter that they sent him to ask him to come back and do a little more work. And he's complaining right here. They turned me into a punchline. Right there it says, they turned me into a punchline. And so we'll go on from there. Here we go.
Turn me into a punchline.
Look, Geico helps make it easy to get the coverage for the things you care about.
Who talks like this?
People who want to help with insurance.
And then they squeeze in a lot of insurance talk.
Do you think I should do this?
I think you need to move forward. You can't keep living under a rock. It's cliche.
Under a rock.
Let's go back to sleep.
In a cave, you caveman.
I'm up now. And I hit the row machine.
Looks a little more portly.
With coverage to fit your needs, it's so easy, well, you know.
He looks a little more portly on the rowing machine than he looked in real life, so maybe there's going to be a character arc where he gets back in shape and, gets like Rocky 17 or whatever it was. Not sure, but let's get over to the story, because there is a story, and here it is. Let's see if we can bring that up. Okay, Caveman returns. A lot has changed since Geico first introduced the popular Caveman as a character in 2004. So easy a caveman could do it. There's much more complex attention landscape. That's a fancy way of saying you shouldn't be doing a 2-minute commercial, I think. And Geico has had to consistently adapt and innovate on all fronts. So this commercial is more like a network drama, though the Caveman sitcom that ABC did was one of the worst shows ever made, according to this article. So dumb luck got him this spot, and so they decided it was the only plausible way. Also, don't ever listen to the science that says this is the only conceivable way that climate could be changing. Must be human intervention. That's been debunked so many hundred ways, it's ridiculous. Don't ever listen to the only way possible, the only plausible explanation. There's always more explanations. Okay, so they captured the magic of I don't know, it wasn't very funny, right? So they started asking, well, where does he live? What has he been doing for the last 20 years? And it got us to weird and wonderful places, which they didn't really share. And what will happen when he's begrudgingly thrust back into the limelight? Okay, so anyway, back in the day, he was so clearly the punchline of the joke. And what's funny about it is, see, now what the trouble is they're introducing all these possibilities for him to be offended, because he basically was offended and his psychological problems, perfect fit for the Gen Zs. But a caveman isn't a demographic group, right? There aren't any cavemen watching Geico commercials, right? So they couldn't possibly offend cavemen because there aren't any cavemen. So they had a safe landing spot for their humor. But now they're making it more and more difficult. I want you to think about that. Think about a lot of things. We are always thinking on this show, right? Okay, so let's get over to dark patterns. The FTC, just what we need, more FTC. It seems like the FTC is causing more trouble than they're worth lately. And they still haven't applied basic communication regulations to the internet, which may be a place to start. You know, this is media, by the way, just as much as television is media. You know, never mind. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the FCC. This is the FTC. This is the Federal Trade Commission. They said that Response Tree has been using dark patterns, which is I don't know who coined this term. I'd like to know, to dupe web users into providing personal information. Right. Making them think that they're going to get a home loan by giving information about their credit history or something. And then they resell this data to home loan companies. So maybe they will get a home loan. I don't know. Sounds pretty straightforward. Sounds like, anyway, the dark patterns, according to the FTC, are defined as user interface designs crafted to manipulate or trick users, consumers, into taking actions that may be against their interest or contrary to their intent. Now, the question I always have on these kind of regulations is anybody actually getting tricked? How do they know? Have they just decided that in their opinion this is tricky stuff? That somebody might buy something or reveal something that they, what, was it a gun to their head? You know, and maybe somebody this gullible deserves to be given out as a lead. I don't know. You know, I don't know what. This nanny state protecting everybody. But anyway, I'll skip to the end because it doesn't get any clearer than this. Even though disclosure should be clear and conspicuous, I'd like to know what the FTC thinks is clear and conspicuous, because dark patterns are not clear and conspicuous. So once again, we're having a standard applied to marketers that isn't being followed by the regulators, right? Meaning they shouldn't be made in fine print. Yeah, you ever read federal regulations? It's all fine print. Think about that. Okay, Amazon is in a case where they've been accused of dark patterns, and they say that this is unconstitutionally vague. You think? Oh my goodness. And that claims regarding manipulative design elements implicate all marketing. Right, we're trying to achieve an objective. We're trying to make the sale. So every sale is manipulative. I mean, you could actually think that. You know, every sale is manipulative. You know, you ever go buy from street vendors? You get it home and you find out it's not really made in Italy. It's not. Or it falls apart and then you go back and the booth is gone. I mean, this is the story of mankind. Caveat emptor, right? Caveat emptor. But we're trying to change it to caveat vendor. And it's not, it doesn't work that way. I've got something to sell. You've got money. You know, let me see your penny. As the pieman said to Simple Simon, if you got a penny, maybe it'll be worth my while to give you a taste. No penny, no taste. Okay, now here's one, and this is apparently powered by AI and the LinkedIn community. So there is no real author, and it reads like that. It reads like AI. Okay, it says, direct mail. I love the way they start out with a vague, actually vacuous sentence. Direct mail is a powerful way to reach potential customers who are likely to be interested in your product or services. How likely? I don't know. But how do you find and target prospects by income? One of the most important factors. Show me your penny. That influence buying decisions. In this article, you'll learn how to use direct marketing strategies. Okay, so the first step. What's the first step? First, let's get to the point here after a vacuous paragraph. To using, and again, it repeats again, to using direct marketing to target prospects by income level is to segment your market by different income groups, right? A total tautology. They just keep repeating it. You segment your how can you use direct marketing to target prospects? Because first is segment them into groups. How do you do that? Well, you can use census data. Okay, here's a tip for you. Census data does not segment your market much. In fact, it's not even very good categories. They end at like 100,000 in income. That's the high end is just around 100, maybe 120. Dwelling value is much better because you can plot the number of $1 million homes. The problem with that is that if there's a lake or something, there could be $1 million homes, and the average could be very high, but everybody else lives in a trailer park across the road. And I ran into that not too long ago, just a couple of months ago. We were selling boat docks. And how do you find the rich guy on one side of the street where the lake is, who might need a dock, versus the trailer park on the other side of the street? There tends to be a street that goes around lakes. Okay. And usually it doesn't connect with the street just over there. So you got to go out, in, out, in. It's like the old Dallas airport. You could drive right to your house, but you couldn't drive around the lake. So, yeah, you can use all these tools, but it's expensive. Are you sure that it matters? And then the next step is personalize. Okay? Personalize. How do you do that? Change your direct marketing messages for each income segment. Are you establishing a control? First, you want to establish a control. The first step is, have you tried any of this? Let's try an A/B split with income suggestions, right? Let's try two different offers. One that emphasizes exclusivity and quality and prestige, and another one that mentions affordability. There's almost no cost in that test, right? You don't have to do a 50-50 split. But instead, go buy all the data. Almost none of the clients I ever had ever went out and bought data explicitly to do this. And I'm talking about the biggest catalogers in the world, right? Were my clients. And I could even use the data. And they still didn't want to spend the money to buy the data because the lift was so minuscule, right? In general, I asked Dick Cabela. There you go, David Bear. I asked Dick Cabela to look at the fishing model, and I said, and he said, well, I don't understand what the model is. He never said that, but he didn't. And I said, well, imagine you had one catalog left. I probably have a catalog laying around here. Imagine you had one catalog left, and you wanted to decide if you should send it to the blue-collar neighborhood or the high-income neighborhood. You know that the high-income neighborhood has a lot more money. He said, well, yeah, that's true. But he said, the blue-collar neighborhood is probably a lot more likely to spend the money on fishing than, than income properties or something like that. So I said that's exactly what the model showed, and I showed him how the breakdown went all the way through down to the very edges where you get to the demographics. But there's rarely much lift, right? So demographics can matter, but they can matter opposite of what you think, right? They our best markets for hunters, actually our best customers for hunters, not our best markets, but our best customers were in places like downtown Manhattan. Because they were, Cabela's was the world's best outfitter, and you didn't have an outfitter supply place in the middle of Manhattan back in those days. So test is first. First decide if the variables matter before you spend a lot of money building the variables, and you can test with zip code data. Everybody wants to get household level income data, but actually the only ones that really had lift were the 3-digit SCFs. This is a gold mine for you. We could successfully use geodemographic data like income, like dwelling value, like education level. They're all connected. They're called independent variables, but they're all correlated. And there's a lot more like that can work. But they don't work at the individual household level because it doesn't matter the income if they don't want to fish. If they don't like fishing, right? Or they don't like hunting. Don't mail them that. So whatever it is that you're selling, the niche of your marketing, probably income is not that important. Very rarely is it that important, unless you're selling something so expensive that only a very, very small number of people can buy it. And then it's still not the most important thing, but you can rule people out. You can say, well, I'm not going to mail low income areas. And that is sensible. Okay. It's not that hard to figure out. You don't have to spend any real money on it. You can even go to the postal service and get that information if you're a retailer with a small store. So this is just garbage, okay? Garbage. Using direct mail to target prospects by income level can help you increase your sales efficiency and effectiveness. Not likely. And let's just, for hoots and giggles, see if the word test appears. No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's go on to this. When to use direct mail versus email marketing, okay? Use direct mail, e.g. physical letters, for customer acquisition, then email for retention. So they're saying you don't need direct mail for retention, but you need it for acquisition. And I would say, yeah, acquisition is probably right. But this strategy lifted revenue by 13.5%, which isn't a lot, to be honest. That's something that would be, depending on the mailing quantities, that's barely 90% certainty, right? If that's your differential. Okay, and so they give you good stuff on the, you open your email in the morning. That's the fallacy right there. Do I open my email in the morning? No. I open my email software and I glance at who sent it. And then I know, especially if it's a brand I'm familiar with, not to open it. If it says, a quick question, John, I know not to open it. It says, a possible business partnership, I know not to open it. So first I look at who sent it, then I look at the subject line, and if I really am tricked, and I open it and I see $350,000 available immediately, then I know it's the same email I got 100 times from this variety of different people. So I do not open my email. In general, no, not 1%. I don't look into it at all. I don't essentially open the envelope. And I don't look at the subject line for 90%. Okay? It's like looking at the indicia on the mailing, right? A lot of people sort their mail that way. If it's not a first-class stamp, they don't want to see it. Okay? That's perfectly, it's your right. And a lot of junk mail have gone to first-class stamps for that reason. So when you get it in the mailbox, you say, what is it? This is beautiful. Maybe it's a catalog. Maybe it's a catalog that looks with somebody that looks like you on the cover. An old man. I never get catalogs with an old man on the cover. The difference in intention is undeniable. So, this article is at least a pitch for mail. Okay, here's a PS. I love a PS right in the middle of an article. People also remember print ads for longer than digital ads, making them more engaging and effective. No, it's engaging and effective, which is why they remember it. You got it backwards. Okay, so their shtick here is that you use mail to acquire new prospects because new prospects are going to ignore your email. Now, most of the good printers and mailers I know will do informed delivery, which is free, which sends an email and shows, but I never open that either. I especially never open that. Totally waste of time. And they will also possibly, if they rented a list with email included, they might test emailing saying this is coming to your mailbox. I don't open those either. I don't think I've ever even seen an email like that. But they say that you don't have to waste the postage on existing customers Although most of the mailers I know are much more likely to spend the money for print and direct mail on existing customers because they know their value and they're more likely to recoup their money. Okay. And so they try to explain it was, 6.5% in Italy for this makeup line, Loctane, and 9.3% for U.S. women. What are the wait, I got to get this up here. This is funny. Okay. Join there. This is an ad for some name I couldn't pronounce. Join 24,000 marketers who use science, not flawed opinions. So this is put out by somebody that uses science, but yet you get down to the bottom and you get to the disclaimer. Remember, this is a new scientific discovery. In the future, it will probably be better understood and could even be proven wrong. That's how science works. This also may not be generalizable to your situation. That's also how science works. You generalize only through theory, and theory is established by experiment. If it's a risky change, always test it on a small scale before rolling it out widely. Yeah, and retest it if it's risky, like canceling all your direct mail. So it was 84,000 customers of a beauty retailer who rarely can actually capture where the order came from. And it was 24,000 customers of a U.S. women's apparel retailer. So tiny, it wouldn't even come up in my entire summary of tests. I don't use any tests that small. Never. I would never embarrass myself by using this kind of test. But this was based on a journal of the Academy of Marketing Science, August 2023. I'm telling you, the best place to look for real experimentation is in the medical journals. They test better than any marketer, and they test marketing, which is interesting. So I'm going to just skip the rest of this because I don't believe it. And I would say this is one thing to think about, but my own experience says it's completely wrong, and my experience of 40 years of mailing says it's completely wrong. So Thomas McKinney, I'll reach out to you, and I hope you have a rebuttal. And I hope you write a shorter article if you're just going to dump on us. Sorry to be so grumpy today. That's the way it is in 2024. Most of the stuff I read is garbage. And I can explain